Using Sculpt Nouveau Metal Wax. In this video, we'll show you two different methods of using the Sculpt Nouveau Metal Wax. First, you need to clean the surface. Here we just have a little Dawn dish soap with some water, and we're just scrubbing it with a microfiber towel. If heavier cleaning is needed, that works fine. You can use a Scotch-Brite pad or anything that you really need to use according to what's on there already, but in most cases, just soap and water is what you need. It's just a matter if you need to get more off. The last clean should always be soap and water. We will then follow with just water and wipe all the soap off. It's really important to ensure that you get all of the soap off before you start the waxing process. Here we're going to use clear wax. You can see we've taped two brushes together, and we're really just kind of working around on the surface. I usually reserve this method for more three-dimensional or textured pieces. It ensures that you really get into all the grooves and into all the crevices really. So on a smoother or flat stock like we have here, we'll show that portion later on, and it's a kind of a fun and easy technique to use. Here it's just a matter of putting it on, working it on, and kind of lathering it in. I usually like this method also when it's a little warmer. It will help kind of move and put it down smoother. The key to this method is make sure you don't wait too long to buff. We try and recommend doing it as soon as you can. There is a line to where you can wipe all of it off, but normally a thin coat is desired. So here it's pretty thick. This method generally is a thicker application, but you just come back with a microfiber towel and you kind of buff it all out. Now, the longer you wait, the more likely some of these kind of swirl marks, if you will be more noticeable. So that's why you want to kind of do a section and then buff it off like we are here. And you can see most of the swirls are actually going away. Now in the right light you might see a little bit, and that's why I like this other method that we'll show later on smoother surfaces, but this is a very traditional and easy way to do it. Depending on the temperature you're working in depends on how long you want to wait. So there's no one set time that will work for all across the world or even across the United States. Being in California, it's going to be a much different timeline than if you're in Michigan. So keep that in mind. You kind of have to get a feel for it, and unfortunately it's one of those, I don't have a definite answer for you. So the more you work with it, the more you'll get that feel for it, but just know the hotter it is, the sooner you need to buff it. Now, generally, maybe 5-10 minutes at a 70-degree temperature, but you really can't over buff it. Here you can see we're switching rags. Got a second one going just in case, but we're just kind of got too much wax on that rag, so we'll switch here off camera. But that leads us into black wax. Now, this method will show black wax a little bit more, so I decided I want to darken the table a little bit, and that's what we'll do with this method. This is the method that I usually use on more flat stock or anything without texture, where every little swirl is usually going to show. So I take this microfiber towel and I put a little bit into the towel, and I'm going to wrap it up over it. So I'm going to use it kind of like a pastry bag actually. And I'll kind of show you here, but essentially I enclose all that wax in the rag and I squeeze it a little bit, and some of it comes off. You'll see it kind of seep through a little bit. Now, you don't have to push it too hard. It kind of, you can see it wants to bleed through. And that will help you control so you don't overwax. Now, you can overwax all you want in the other method. You can overwax in this method, just keep going. But this will help you control how much you have to buff off, because the more wax you put on, the more likely it will show that you have these swirls and everything. I still recommend going in kind of a clockwise or counterclockwise, a circular motion, if you will. And that will help it kind of look a little bit more natural, and same with the buffing off. With this method, I feel like I'm able to move a lot faster. So before you saw we did about 1.5 foot section, and this is a separate day here, so it's a new coat of wax, but here I'm able to do about half the table, and you have to figure out again how hot it is, what your comfortability is, and here we don't have any heat going on. The air is actually running, so it's actually keeping it a little bit cooler and helping me extend that time frame a little bit. Again, working out in the sun where it's hotter, it's going to dry it out. I won't be able to do as much. Maybe I should only do 1.5 foot or 2 feet sections, but I'm able to move much faster and much more efficient, which allows me to get a little bit more done before I go into that buffing step. The patina that Rustic Santa Fe put in on this table that they built us was actually pretty modeled as it is. It's a really beautiful piece. If you get the chance to come by our showroom, come take a look at it. But it has a lot of movement as well. So even if I don't get that wax perfect, it's just going to buy into that look. Luckily, it looks pretty darn good. Now, the one step I do like to add in my waxing to make it just a little bit more even is I like to heat it up afterwards. If you're out in the sun, great, it's going to help you a lot on that. But here we've waxed and buffed everything, and I'm just going to go back and warm it up just a little bit. And it's not a whole lot. It's maybe 110, 120 degrees. I'm just warming it up, get a little extra of that solvent to kind of want to blend and melt it out. Now, the important distinguish here is that it's a very thin coat of wax. Please do not heat up a thick pile of wax. And be very careful when you're heating wax in general, because wax is a solvent-based product. It is flammable. So do this at your own caution. This is not a required step. This is something that I like to do because I feel like it helps it smooth out just a little bit. So by all means, you do not need to heat up your wax afterwards. It's an extra step should you be able to and should you feel comfortable to do so. Please, again, exercise caution when you're heating wax. I can't stress this enough. But a nice warm coat, and again, stick it out in the sun if you don't want to put a torch to it. It'll warm up just fine, and it will help you with this as well. Some people choose to buff it afterwards as well. I don't like to. I like to just warm it up and just leave it alone. And you can see this side of the table much easier where it's smoothing out a lot better. So that's why I choose to do this sometimes. Now, the reason why I went with black wax on this second one is that I wanted it just a little bit darker. I felt like it was a little lighter than I wanted it, so the black wax acts as a great little tinter to add a little option to you. Now, here we have our final wax job, and you can see some little imperfection in the lighting, and with a little bit of practice, I can get those even better, and in fact, I plan on doing another coat here, but we really have only waxed it about once a year, and so we're coming up on needing to do another one, but our wax is a nice, durable, hard finish. Sculpt Nouveau Metal Wax is available at www.sculptnouveau.com or by calling 760-432-8242.